we've got kind of a double-edged sword here. We don't have competition, but with that, we're the only ones making people aware that this service is out there. You have to see it to even understand what it is. And then the light goes on and they're like, oh, that's incredible.
Well, we're very excited for the podcast today. We have Kim Eaton on with us. Welcome, Kim.
Hey, how are you, Brad? Good to be here.
Good. Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. So Kim's the president and co-owner of True Size Plans. And for a lot of our audience, I mean, they follow us on our social media channels. And so I'm sure a lot of them have seen either through Instagram or YouTube, the few site visits. I mean, I've been there, Ashley and I went there. We've had, my team, my pre-con team go there and see this firsthand. And it's quite an operation you have built there. So it's pretty excited to have you on today, Kim.
Thank you. It's been exciting to see reactions, and it was a lot of fun having you and your wife there. So even seeing your guys' home, it was fun. You guys kind of, both of you do this, so you didn't have to spend a whole lot of time. It was just nice for you to kind of look at it. But you being in the business, you didn't have to spend as much time there. But it was fun. It was good.
Yeah, before we dive into like the entrepreneurship, the idea creation, everything that it takes to build a business, which there's a lot of steps, for any business, and so much of like what you're doing, Kim, relates to like all of us business owners, and our audience typically are business owners themselves. Speak to the idea itself. There's always a challenge. At least my perspective has always been, when I'm in the industry, this is something I do. I can look at a set of plans, I can envision it, I can see 2D. I know, having been through enough homes, read plans, looking at the interior designer, their design book. However, there is a challenge for typically our clients and sometimes some of the trade. Well, I shouldn't say trades, but for sure the clients, to see what that would look like in person. How big are the rooms? One of the questions I often get from clients is like, okay, as we're going through the floor plan design, I understand the space here, width by length, but what does that mean in real time, right? And so, how does that work for you just to see the customer experiences they're walking through and engaging for the first time, through the product?
Yeah, it's actually been very remarkable, very cool. It's one of those things where you envision something and you talk about how it would be and what people would think and what you think that they and how they would react. And then it's a surreal moment as they come through and it's almost textbook. And it's been very, very unique in that we've had about to date, I think 67, 68. Oh no, sorry, 70, like 78 companies come through, more individuals because they'll come with their team and stuff like that, but 78 different companies. And down the line, it's been incredible. Every one of them had that same reaction where this is amazing. It's very helpful. It's, it's been very remarkable. And then, so not all of them have had clients. Some of those are just companies touring it and getting familiar with us. But all those that have had clients, everyone that's brought in a client, 100% of them all have made changes. And they just praised about how it was great, how very beneficial and very helpful for their process. So it's been fun watching that and been very surreal. Like I said, when you envision and you think something and then it actually plays out before you and it's done it time after time. So it's been fun.
So I want to get to the changes. I think that's really interesting. But before we do that, I mean, walk through the concept in itself. I mean, if anyone's listening and I said True Size Plans, what does that mean? Walk us through the experience. If they're not there visually, walk them through on what they can imagine in their mind of what this looks like.
Sure. So what we've created, my partner and I, Trent Powell and I, have created a facility where we're trying to create a high-end white glove premier experience where different professionals, builders, contractors, architects, interior designers, anyone along those lines that deals with plans or works off of blueprint plans, even pool builders, landscape design, front and backyard landscapes, where we have a facility where they are able to come and experience it in full size. So if the room's 15 by 15, we actually have that to scale where it's 15 feet by 15 feet. So their whole house, we're able to lay out their whole house floor plan, rather than typically what they see is on blueprints, a set of blueprint plans or on their computer. So we've provided that facility to be able to do that and have that experience where they're able to walk through and feel the layout, feel the flow of it, see sizes. We also have furniture that roll into place, that allows them to say, like, we have a king size bed, you can roll it into a bedroom and see how the bed fits within relation to the walls. And we have half walls, so we can really create that space. It's been cool to see how that's essentially what we do at our first location. We're working on our second location, and we can talk about that more as we go here. So, well,
Wh- yeah, which I love. And so, um, one second. So the point being is that when the customers are in there and they're walking the floor plan, as you mentioned, we'll call them props for lack of you have the couch, you have, items of furniture that can, the king size bed, as you mentioned. So as you lay that out and install that, they can see, um, spatially, do I have enough space on either side of the bed? Do I have enough space in front of the bed to the wall? And that way, as they're walking it, they know exactly what it's going to feel like when the house is framed.
yep, absolutely, yeah. Placement of windows and doors, things like that. Those are real critical things. Oftentimes, those are the biggest things we see changing. Walls where they want to make more room in one room and take out little in the other. And so it's been cool where people have been able to really make those adjustments now, rather than in the field that costs a lot of time and money. So it's been cool.
It's definitely a lot less expensive when you're making changes on paper with your pencil as opposed to, in the field
Yes,
when it's gone vertical.
yes, it is. You're in the middle of that yourself, right?
I am. I've seen that, especially when there's concrete involved. It makes it a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, that one's even harder.
Yeah. So, you mentioned that this was interesting because you said 100% of people have made changes. What is it that they're typically looking at that they're changing?
We've had all over the board. And in fact, they're getting ready to come back in a couple. So we've had some people fly in from out of state as well. So we had a couple from Nevada that actually they. Long story short, there are other companies like this in the far east coast of the U.S. We're the furthest one, west coast, western United States. There's about five of us, or five companies that do this same thing. Anyway, these people from Nevada went to one out in Ohio and had walked their plans. They made some adjustments. They found us, and so they said, "Hey, you're a lot closer, a lot easier to get to." So they came to our facility about a month ago, and one of the things that they didn't have furniture and props, so we had props, and we were able to roll those in. Long story short, they ended up saying we've got to blow the whole side of their house out. They discovered that, hey, after the whole layout and having furniture, that now they're going to come back now after they're making that change. So we had somebody want to blow out the whole side of the house to put more square footage. We've had some people where they have two rooms that are joining, and one room was way bigger than the other one. They were like, well, we can split that space and make both of them more proportionate. So that was one that was changed. A lot of doorways, moving doorways and things like that. Windows, placement of windows. Those are quite a few changes that we've seen thus far. So the funny thing is the only one that didn't change anything was you guys. You had actually, because you'd been at it and you'd already, I think, had your concrete poured at that point too. But yeah, everyone, and even Hancock Homes, which is a huge builder that's been in the business for years and years and years, they actually had their whole team in last week, and they're making some changes and will be back. So it was cool to see that a company that's been at it for, I think, 70 years or something like that, was able to discover some things and some products they're doing. So yeah.
Here's why I love your product. I mean, honestly, Kim, why I was such a fan is because um, in the past, typically the way it works is we have clients, we're going through floor plan design. It's conceptual, right? We have the width and length, as I mentioned, maybe ceiling heights at some point with a, acoustical ceiling design. But we know the spaces of the great room, of the kitchen, of the living room, the bedrooms, and so forth. And what will happen is the clients notoriously are like, okay, Brad, this is great. The room sizes, they're going to be these dimensions, but what does this look like in real life, right? So we have to schedule time, right, to go meet up current projects under construction. We're walking, the client has their tape measure out, they have their foot, their camera, they're taking pictures, they're walking the space together as a couple, and they're kind of going
Sometimes
through
in the
these. And
middle of the
again,
summer and during
yeah,
construction, all that stuff. So
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, July in Phoenix, which is always a great time to go
Yeah,
tour, right?
right.
So here we are in July going through all the projects, and it's hot. It's, sometimes they have their kids with them because they're out of school. It's for the summer. I mean, here's the reality of it though. And they're trying to visualize and say, okay, this room's 18 by 16. Ours is 14 by 19. So how does that, you know what I mean? And
Totally.
so
So you
they're
still don't get
struggling.
real. Yeah,
Yeah, it's still not exact. I mean, it's not exact. They have a point of reference. They can see that.
sure.
And so when you go into your warehouse and it's all laid on the floor and actually walking it with their feet. And I do love that it's very visual that as you're walking through the front door, here's what it would be. You walk to this end of the house and you can really feel what that looks like, even though it may not be 3D with the vertical wall going up. I mean, on floor in itself, walking at a full size print, makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we've seen. That every person's been able to have that same experience. Even kitchen layout and the flow of a kitchen. That's a big thing where people spend a lot of time, a lot of energy and effort, and then you know out in the field, oh crap, we didn't have enough room for this, or the layout just isn't right and stuff. So pantries and things like that. We've seen some people change up the size of a pantry and the location of a pantry too. So
Well, I love that because I've been on both sides. I've been where clients, have said that the spaces are too small, right? Once it goes vertical, they're like, "This is not big enough. We didn't, really look at this." And a lot of them are like, "This is way too big. Like we didn't think it'd be this big. What am I going to do in this space?" And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
essentially, this is working between the two, so you don't have either.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. That happens. In fact, we have some people because great rooms, like you said, oftentimes those are a little easier. They're typically a bigger area, but yeah, we've had I think one or two come through and say, "Man, that actually is a little too big, bigger than we thought." I don't recall if they made changes, but they did say, "Man, that's definitely plenty big." So yeah.
How did you find the technology, Kim? I mean, maybe speak to the brains of just how, the concept here. You mentioned there's only 5 companies, doing this at this scale, and you guys for sure are the biggest one out west. Where did you find the technology to do this?
Yeah, so about six and a half months ago, my business partner Trent came across a video that so this concept is pretty big in Europe, Asia, Australia, where they've been doing this for about 7 8 years. So he came across a video, and it showed this concept of walking through full size blueprint plans, and he sends it to me, and I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. And I was like, dude, we can do this, because I'm actually my background as developer and builder, and so I've dealt with these problems personally myself in building and all those things. But as I saw that some of the technology similar to some things that I've done, I'm like, man, we can figure this out. So our first thing is we reached out to those companies to see if we could buy a franchise or franchise, and they eventually got back to us, but the cost to do theirs was just incredible. Like the one main company that started, they're like $1 million to buy in. We're just like, dude, that's just easy.
Wow.
So my partner and I just went at it and started figuring it out. Like we started ordering all the equipment and just started searching it out. Like I said, I had some familiarity with it, and so we just started ordering the equipment, and we started testing it in my garage at my home. So
Hmm.
so we tested it for, sheesh, I don't even remember how many pieces of equipment we went through, probably 40, 50.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was quite a journey. And then when we left my garage, we went to a commercial space, and at that point, we thought we needed extra high ceilings to be able to do this, because that's one of the things that all these other companies that are out in Europe, but even the companies that are in the East Coast, they have 30 to 50 foot ceilings, and which is very difficult to find buildings like that. And so when we left my garage, and we thought, okay, we're a little better than them, but we discovered, and we kept working at it, and so we were able to even perfect that, where we're able to do it at about anywhere from a 9 to 10, 11, 12 foot ceiling. So it's been pretty cool to see how we been able to better what's gone on out there and what they've done, and made it even bigger too. So
So if I understand correctly, as opposed to maybe the franchise concept, you paid $1 million to buy in and set up for you to kind of go, build this yourself. You mentioned you went through a lot of pieces of equipment. That trial and error. It's I'm always curious, like the curiosity that you have, that mental focus and aptitude to be able to come up with a concept and make sure it performs, because there's cost. Anyone listening, there's time, right? There's cost as you're going through this, the equipment. I mean, it's not like you're just one day come up with this concept and you're making money. I mean, there's a lot of
Throw it
risk involved.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is very interesting as you ask that. Like, I look back at, I've done a lot of different business ventures and stuff like that, and what it is that allows me to do that, because not everyone could do that. That they don't have whatever you want to call it, brainlessness or whatever. That I'll just go after it and figure it out. And so, but yeah, there was a lot of times where the biggest thing that was very puzzling to us is just, why isn't it here? Why isn't it in the U.S.? Why isn't it in Arizona? Man, Arizona is a hotbed for construction, and it answers a question that there's a problem there. That it adds so much time and so much cost to people in their building process, whether they're building new or remodeling. And it's just that was the biggest puzzle thing to me, is why isn't it here? Still don't have an exact answer, but now we're here, so we're running with it.
Maybe this goes to, you mentioned you develop or build a background. How has that played a role just in knowing that this, despite the hard work and costs and startup fees and marketing, all the stuff we'll get into, you're willing to make the dive. You're willing to take the plunge to go do this. How did that background play a role in this?
Yeah, I think just I think just knowing the business and knowing how, like, even for me, I've been doing it for about 30 years. That there was times where, like, even our personal home that we're in now, we did we completely gutted it down to a couple walls. And even after doing that, there's a few things now we're like, son of a gun, like, there's still things that, I can envision and visualize fairly well because I've been doing it. But even with that, there's still things. And so it's like, most people can't. Most people can't envision and can't see it, can't feel it until it's done. And then that's where the problems start. So yeah, that's been the biggest motivating factor of, like, it's a very needed service that can really truly help people and change people's lives. And the point of, like, one of the biggest challenges people have is a budget. And you as a builder and developer, like, you're doing your best to try and be right to these people and try and, like, keep them in that budget and build them that beautiful dream home. But with these changes, it's like sometimes you throw your hands up in the air and you're like, you feel so bad, but there's nothing you can do. And they're paying so much money, it needs to be right. And so really the service that we provide hopefully really alleviates a lot of that nightmare and headache going forward.
What pushback, if any, or has it been completely supported from the design community, architecture, interior designs? How's that feedback been?
Here's a funny thing. So I'm going to say 99% of everyone has been very positive and very excited about it, even before coming through and then coming through. But there was one in particular, and I won't name who it was, but it was very interesting. We'd reached out to them, and they're a custom home builder. And they were just like, oh, we wouldn't need this service. We don't need this service. And then they started saying a few things. We're like, well, perhaps this builder likes change orders. And I that's the honest truth, is they're making dang good money. So I'm like, oh, didn't even think that like, I'm not programmed that way. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't handle change orders. And most people, a lot of people aren't like that they're thrive off of change orders. And so we learned very quickly. So the funniest story in the world is, just last week, they reached out to us, said, hey, we have a client demanding to go to your facility. So it's pretty funny. So they are coming now because their client came across us and demanding to go. So anyway, but other than that, everyone else has been very excited and very, very supportive. So
That's incredible. So you actually had one negative feedback was from a builder who lives and dies off of change orders, and they're like, you're
yes.
figuring out too much for us in advance.
Yeah. So it was very interesting. Hadn't even thought that or considered that until we were like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
oh,
It's because it's crazy. Like, who would have thought of it? I would. To me, I'm still trying to put my head around that. Like, and just from a builder perspective, it's funny because as the GC, the reason, and again, I don't know how the operation works, but for me, I'm a cost plus builder, right? And so,
sure.
just to be open, change orders hurt me. Like, in
Oh,
every way, they hurt me because the amount of work in most cases, the cost
Time and
plus amount.
yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
cost plus amount, the fee is not high enough for the duration as to the schedule, for the complexity, the mistakes that can
right.
happen, the organization, even with the QR codes and everything and the documentation. My subs make good money in most cases,
Yeah,
right? Like they're doing great. But for me
yeah.
as a GC, it's
Oh,
a
it's a nightmare.
total hindrance.
Yeah.
Yeah, change orders aren't great. And so that's why, again, everyone's model's different, but it's just a fascinating concept.
Totally. No, honestly, like that was it was very eye opening for me. I'm like, I get it, and they're building high end customs. I can see where there's dang good money there. But yeah, like the time, energy, and effort of like you can't even charge enough. Like for me, oftentimes I'm like, I'll pay you to take it at like this. Take it as
Yeah.
it is. I'll pay you because yeah, it messes up the schedule of everyone else that's coming behind and it just yeah, there's a lot of things like you said. As much as you have processes in place and procedures in place for those things, it still is very hard to logistically carry that through once it's changed from the plans to what's reality. So yeah.
It's fascinating because again, I'm still my mind's blown here because as I'm thinking through this, I'm like, as I have done autopsies and we evaluate each project when we're complete at the end of a job with our entire team. I look at this and I'm like, if every project had zero change orders, it'd be ideal. I mean, that's my perfect scenario.
Oh,
No change orders. Yeah, the original scope, we go knock it out, we contract everyone, and we just hammer it out. Because what ends up happening is like change orders add time, right, wrong, and different. They add time, and then
yes.
it affects our commitments in some ways. So closing day, which puts strain, even if we advise the client, it's hard to remember all the changes, even when we have change order signed with time durations. I mean, at the end,
Yes.
there's cause and effect that all of us either
Yeah.
can't quantify or don't quantify in the proper way.
Yep, totally. And you're once again your loyalty is to that client, trying to provide this beautiful dream home to them, and you've made a commitment, for cost and time, and you give them an idea, and it's just like and that's where the thing is oftentimes that change order isn't just the framer. It can go across the board where a little more drywall, electrical, a lot of different things come into play. Where yeah, it can be very consuming change order. So, yeah, I
So
agree.
yeah, let me ask you this: outside the change orders, and not that this is proprietary. The reason I asked the question about the architecture and design is because there are designs, and again, I would imagine that most architects aren't taking this too personal as far as if their floor plans changing or room sizes. I mean, how has that feedback been? Just as the client walks in, they're like, "This is way too big," or "This is way too small." Just that coordination and communication with the design team who are going to go back and now have to make these changes.
The thus far, so two things. One of the we've had a challenge getting architects in. Um, we haven't had as much response from architects, and so we're trying some different things there. I think architects typically like to just sit in their office and don't typically go out, go do site visits, go do things like that early on. And so, but the few that we've had, actually, it was kind of nice because they're able to say, "Hey, look, this is why I did this. This is you see this and you see this flow, and we've had so architects and interior designers be there together." And so they were able to kind of collaborate and say, "This is why we did this and this and this." And the client was able to see that, even though they might have either made changes or kept it that way. But it actually, what it appeared to be is more of, hey, I think that they actually appreciated it and was able to show their client why they did it this way. You know, but there's obviously the other side of the token where they can feel that way. But at the end of the day, the reality, and this is where I say is like, so what happens is after the architect's done and he sends it off to you as a contractor, typically that architect's like, he's done, and he's like, okay, AFT's fault problem now. And so the hope is once again we're trying to right from the beginning, that paying client, that homeowner that you're trying to build that home, that dream home, that dream project, that you're trying to provide that best high end service for them, that to eliminate those mistakes, like you said, your dream ideal project is no change orders, no changes. Where the project, because then you can stay on budget, stay on time for the most part. And so that's what we're hoping to be able part of that team with the architects that begins that process, and they see the value of it. That I feel like it would help them sometimes with their client. understand what their clients really seeing and feeling. But that has been a challenge thus far is getting more architects on board, but they're key to this part of True Size.
How, maybe you speak to this and the marketing strategy. I mean, when you start a concept such as this, who is the ideal client for you?
The ideal client is it's the homeowners that are either building a new home or remodeling. Uh, Even those that are like doing a backyard remodel, a new pool, new landscaping, the front yard, the backyard. So those are the clients, the ideal clients, and then typically you would have an architect that they would go to, either a design architect or a landscape architect that would design their project, and so those would be very linked up with us. And then builders, we've had quite a few builders. We've had more builders and interior designers come through than architects. Quite frankly, they're the most that have come through thus far. So
That's amazing. And as far as like getting the word out there, I know, of course, you guys are very good at social media. You've built quite a following already very quickly on Instagram. I know you were, pinging me, you've pinged other builders. How does that work just, from the business development side outside the ideal client, just to kind of get the word out there?
here's the thing, and we're still working on it. We're still working at it and trying to figure it out. So we've got kind of a double-edged sword here. We don't have competition, but with that, we're the only ones really in the Western United States making people aware that this service is out there. So that's one challenge. And the next challenge is it's something very you have to see it to even understand what it is. Oftentimes, like I've gone to a couple people myself and tried to tell them what it is, and people are busy and they're not thinking, and so sometimes I go in, they're like, oh, we already have somebody that does our blueprint plans. I'm like, no, we don't print, we don't do anything like that. So finally, I'll get them to listen, but then typically I have a little video and show them just a little clip, and then the light goes on and they're like, oh, that's incredible. But it's something you have to kind of see, and then once you see it, it's cool. But even across the board, it's been once they come in and experiences it, it's at a whole nother level. And I don't know how you felt as you'd seen it. I think you saw a couple videos, but then when you finally came out, what was your thought? I'm not questioning you, or this is your.
Oh, do it. You should. No, you should question me. It makes for a better episode for sure. So I'll give you my perspective. It's interesting because, as I mentioned, I'm in the industry, right? I mean, This is something I do. I've done for a long time. I've been around blueprints and plans since I was a teenager. Went to college for this, and so I know my team when I was out of town when they went by, and they were pretty enthused about it. And you had been pinging me. And in fairness, this is where I'll give you some credit, Kim. Is I wasn't playing hard to get. It's just busy. Schedule's busy. And Kim's like, Brad, when you coming? Yeah. And I'm just like leaving you on red, leaving you hanging,
bro.
And it wasn't that I didn't have time. It's just the reality is I'm like, to your point, I had seen it and I'm like, okay, and to be fair, it's one thing to see something on YouTube. It's one thing to see it on Instagram stories and to see it in person.
Yeah.
When I went in person, I was completely blown away because having been around this my entire life, it's different when that floor plan's laid out. And the only example I can give is something that, we're adamant about is when the slab's poured and we're laying out framing, right? You're snapping all the walls and you're laying out all the structural components. And, sometimes we'll have the electrician lay out where the lighting will be and so forth. But even then, when you snap the lines, it's not like you have furniture. It's not like you can roll out props, as you mentioned. Sure. So here I'm in your warehouse. It's air conditioned space. Everything's to size. You're walking this. You're rolling out, the beds and the sofas and all these components. And to see that in person, I'm like, you know what? For me as a builder that's been around this my whole life, it's extremely valuable. I completely see the value. And that's why right away, I was like, Kim, we need to get you on a podcast. We need to do some collaboration. Let's have our clients start doing this in every project. I saw the value of how this will benefit us and our clients moving forward, because for me, I'm always looking for value to separate AFT from everyone else, right? It's always the value proposition for our client. And I felt this was a huge way to do that, especially for clients that aren't, if I do this every day and I'm wowed by it, then that means my clients will be for sure wowed by it. And so to me, it just that experience in person made a big difference because you can really, to your point, you don't say that lightly that 100% of people make changes because the fact of the matter is we're in a profession where these homes have never been built before. It's the first time they've been constructed. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of planning, a lot of costs, a lot of thought, and a lot of emotions. And so if we can work to design something that's better on paper and with more decisions made, it just allows us to meet expectations as a builder in the field.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. That's why we pushed pretty hard to try and get you in, because we saw that you're definitely one of the premier builders in the state of Arizona, and so we know that the people that you're dealing with and the clients that you're dealing with, you're really striving to take care of them, and the reason why you're growing is because of who you are and who your company is, and so that's why we were so excited, and we're very excited that we did put together a deal where we can hopefully continue to grow together and provide this great service to your clients. And so, yeah, it was cool to see that. And I appreciate that feedback that you had as you went in there. And that's really, we had a gal 2 weeks ago. She actually flew in from Tennessee and a friend came in from Kentucky. So it was a group of ladies. And as soon as the gal from Tennessee, she's actually interior designer, realtor. She's redoing a home in Tennessee, and she'd seen models of it, but this was hers. They made some changes. As soon as she walked in, within probably about 10, 15 seconds, she like, I've got goosebumps, and she looks down at her arms and she's like, this is just unreal. It was really cool to see that. She just was like breathless standing there. And she had been in the business for years herself. So it was really cool. Like, it just, anyone that's gone through really has had that. Just, it's an experience, and that's what we've tried to create, is more than just this warehouse, a place to come to. We're trying to really create a very high end like experience for people to leave with very good value, but feel like, hey, this was good, and we accomplished a lot here. So
Well, there's a couple of points I want to make that not that it's off topic, but earlier I asked you your ideal client, right, Kim? And the reason I always ask that is because it took me a lot of time in my career to understand that term and what that meant and what that meant to my business. And you hear this a lot about in sales and marketing, and as you're building a brand, like who do you market to? And in my experience, again, a lot of it's referred to. Is it a certain demographic? Is it a certain age? Is it an occupation? Um, and you kind of go through and say, okay, did I have the best experience with lawyers or doctors or CEOs or sales people? I mean, whatever it is, right? There's that whole plethora of information out there. And I have this connection, maybe because having worked so hard to build AFT, right? And the role as an entrepreneur, which I talk a lot about on this podcast, the ups and downs, and it changes every day. And there's cost, there's frustration, there's depression, there's excitement, there's you chase a job, you're excited to get it, and then it doesn't pan out, or you lose the job. And so, I mean, there's all these different emotions you're feeling on a regular basis, and then you're dealing with the nuance of running a business and the complication and budgets and everything else. So the reason I bring it up is because over the years I've realized that my ideal client are entrepreneurs. And the reason being, the really successful entrepreneurs, I feel like the reason we get along so well is because they can appreciate the amount of work that they put into their business and building teams and companies, and they see the effort we put in. Because we're not perfect by any means, but something I think that anyone would attest to, either myself or my team, is we're always looking to learn, continue education, to be better. If we've made mistakes, how can we rectify those? How can we not make them the second time, and just continue to better this process, right? And so the clients that are entrepreneurs appreciate that we have teams, that we have a coordinator and a superintendent assigned to their project, and we have systems and processes in place. And so what ends up happening is, because we have that call of admiration for each other, it just makes the building relationship much better, especially where, like, my builds are, minimum 2 years typically in the field, plus a year, 2 years of pre-con. So
yeah,
my clients are 3, 4 year relationships. And so that relationship is really key. And so where I'm going is that the reason I don't want to say felt connection or compassion or whatever it may be is because I'm like, I see the business you're creating, Kim. I know the work it takes and the investment to put into your brand and get it out there. But at the same time, there's value for me, there's value for others. And to broadcast that message, for sure, it was easy for me when you said, "Hey, I'd like to like partner and make this a standard for your clients." I'm like, I'm in because there's just that connection, and I feel like on the flip side, that's the connection I hope that my clients have with me.
Yeah, that's cool. I appreciate you sharing that. And that's the thing, like you're talking, it's a grind. It can be a grind as you're, just trying to figure it out and go through it. And like you said, some of these, you put all this time, energy, and effort sometimes, and they don't pan out. You're like, geez, often then sometimes you put a little bit of effort and then they're ready to go. You're like, it's a very interesting thing. But one of the things that's been really cool, and I was talking to my business partner, Trent, the other day, where, you kind of get dragged down. You're just like, man, when you do a little more of this, that, whatever. And then just the other day with Hancock Homes, they came in, Greg Hancock, and I think he's 46 years he's been at it, and I think their company's 70 years in Arizona. Anyway, just being able to once again hear it again, how he was just like, this is incredible. This is very helpful, very needful. I wish we had this. And his whole team was there. He had his architects, his designers, his lead lady that does all this stuff in himself, and so it kind of re-energizes you again. You're like, okay, yes, we're on the right path here, and it is a very good and needed service. So yeah, that's been a grind without.
Well, take us inside maybe to that grind if you don't mind, Kim. Like, was there a point where and Trent are looking at this and be like, did we miscalculate the market? Is this too hard? I mean, everyone has, and I'll just be open. I think I was in business probably 5 or 6 years, and I'm like, I think I need a career change. Like, I don't know how builders make money doing this. And let's just be honest. And now, fortunately, I'm 11 years in business, but I had a tipping point where I was just like, I remember blatantly, I mean, I remember the exact moment thinking, I don't know if I can do this, if it's going to pan out right. And so, have you been there? Are you there now? Like, what does that look like for you and Trent?
I think it depends on the time of day, bro. It's funny. You're a better man than I am, because that's been, I like I said, my background is building, developing, and I love it. I've done a lot of projects, and I was very, very blessed with it. But I'm excited for this opportunity because I'm done with construction, and that side of it, because it is a grind, and it is a difficult thing. But now it's the other side of it. It's a new challenge. That's the thing where, like, the hope is that we'll continue to challenge yourself and continue to dig in and find those key things that you've learned in business and building other businesses, and the business that you're building, that you take those key things and apply them, because they can apply across the board in all different areas of our businesses and our lives. And so that's the thing that I'm excited to try and tap back into those. Some I know, some I don't know. And so, but it's definitely a grind now, just looking at it and thinking, oh man, how do we, going into Christmas time, it's like, man, is going to be a ghost town over here? And so, yeah, that's been the truth of it. It depends on the hour of the day.
Sounds like my normal day. It depends on the hour, right? On what's
Yes.
happening. One thing that's difficult, I mean, just speaking about the landscape here in Phoenix, is it's a really big city. We're very wide, right? You think, I mean, I have projects and I only work on a portion of town,
Sure.
but it's an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 20 minutes, from project to project without traffic. We're pretty spread out. How did location play a role, as far as finding a facility that's central, that feels like it's in a safe area, easy for people to access? Because a big part of you is people have to attend in person. So how
Yeah.
did this space play a role just in the success of the business?
Yeah, no, we spent a lot of time just looking around and really trying to grind that out and figure out, like, what's the best area to go in. We looked at different areas. We looked down Gilbert and Queen Creek and Scottsdale, and the thing is, we really felt like we wanted to be near an airport, for the convenience of people wanting to fly in, which in fact that's happening. We've had about 7 or 8 different clients fly in thus far, which is great. So that was a huge thing. We looked at by Scottsdale Air Park, and we had a location there kind of identified, and that one didn't come through. We ended up finding here in Tempe, right at basically right at where the 143 ends, right down by Sky Harbor, and in a pretty decent, nice little area. And so that's where we ended up settling on, and that was a big thing. It's just kind of a central location off of freeways and potentially by airport. And so that's how we were able to lock down the location we're at now.
Well, and not only that, I mean, you're not stopping there. I mean, you have this location. When I went there, you're working on I don't want to say a new venture, but a new venture. I mean, speak to us about what's happening, next door.
So yeah, so we not only have we started kind of a, you know, you can call it a startup company in Arizona with walking the full scale blueprint plans. We actually are doing a sister company right next door where we go vertical, where we have over 70 feet of video walls. I compare it to like a mini sphere, like in Las Vegas. And so the idea there is people are able to go room by room and see the elevation of it, see like their kitchen cabinets, their master bathroom, and the tile and the pattern that it's laid out and designed, their laundry room, anything that has that vertical element, they're able to see it in real time and real scale. And so they can walk into it and go room by room and see. So once again, before ordering their colors and their tile and their cabinets, their countertops, they're able to see it and see it all together before making those choices. And so, that's been fun. We're about ready to open. We've started doing some soft walkthroughs. You and your wife saw it fairly early on, but we're getting pretty close here. In about 2 weeks, we'll open that up. But we'll have we've designed it where really it's so. Our original location is more pre-construction. This would be post. So for interior designers, when they're going to choose all the interior stuff of your home, now you can see it all around you and see the size, the texture, the color, and oftentimes your interior designers will bring a sample of that, and so you can feel the sample, see it, but now you can see it all put together in your designed kitchen, or like I said, laundry room, or any of those different places. So we're very excited about that one too. And this is the first one in anywhere. No one's done this concept at all. So we went from the other one to this, and like I said, about 2 weeks we'll be opening and starting this one.
So, as you pivot to that business, as you look at, ideal client, who's the ideal client for business, for the design side?
Yeah, we see that probably interior designers will be a huge user of this facility as interior designers are meeting with their clients. And one of the things that I've learned in this process of starting True Size is interior designers are needing to and wanting to get involved earlier in the process. That would help you as a builder and developer as well, because what happens oftentimes is, okay, the home's framed up or even drywalled, and then they'll bring in their interior designer, and the interior designer's like, oh, this doesn't work. And that's where a lot of these changes come, for that flow and that feel. So the hope is that interior designers they're getting involved in the beginning of the project as well, so they can help that facilitate throughout. And so interior designers will be a huge client there. And really essentially anyone can, but those that are doing that, cabinet companies, we can see flooring companies that are wanting to show their product in that person's floor plan or layout. So we have moving walls that we can, if you've got a room that's 20 by 30, we have walls that'll come in, and that room will actually be 20 by 30 or 30 by 30, whatever it is, that we can move those walls in to show that feel again, to make it as real life as possible. So the hope is that they're able to see this a little better and understand it before, purchasing a lot of these items and putting it together, and then seeing it, changing it later. So
As you look at both of these business concepts, what do you wish you knew earlier?
what's that? Sorry, what was that?
So as you look at both business concepts that you started, what is something you wish you knew earlier before starting them?
That's a good question. We're still up in the air. I think the biggest thing is just figuring out our right target market and where to go with that. Marketing that's always a challenge. You're chasing, you're not exactly sure what you're chasing until it's there. So the honest truth is we're still trying to figure that out. one of the things that we have discovered that which is good and bad. Our first location where we do the full size blueprint plans, we have the biggest one in the world. We discovered that from a client that was trying to go to the biggest one, bigger, found ours. Anyway, what I'm saying that is it's bigger than it's needed. It's great for clients and for people, but that's something that maybe would be something we'd do differently. Is not have as big as it is, but so yeah.
Well, in your defense, if I interrupt you, what's interesting about I know some of the clients that have been through. I mean, in fairness, they have some big homes. So even as big of a space as you have, which is
It's
large, you
yes.
have to take that floor plan and cut it up, or at least slide it over so people can
Yep.
walk the entire space.
No, and that's what it is. Yeah, we've done like 30,000 square foot homes. So yeah, in fact, most of the homes that are coming through are 10 to 15,000 square feet. So yeah, they're big homes. And what we do is we do it in sections, and so we're able to scroll to different sections of the house. So they're able to walk through the whole over almost about 4,500 square feet of the home at one time, and then we pan over to another section. So we can do as big of square footage as anything out there, but we do 4,500 square feet at a time. But essentially, once you're on one side of the house, you can't see or you've forgotten what's on the other side of the house. But yeah, the next biggest that we've discovered is 2,000 square feet, and we've got four.
Wow. So
So
you're more than double the next biggest that's out there in the
and
market.
we didn't know that until literally we had a client. He's building in Paradise Valley. He's got a 32,000 square foot home. Funny story. They were calling all over the world trying to find somebody that has the facility to do 32,000 square feet. They're like, dude, it's not going to happen. That would just be insane. So after him realizing, okay, you don't need, 32,000 square feet building to be able to look at it, you pan to different sections. That the next biggest they found was 2,000, and then ours was 4,500. So they came to ours. That was about 2.5 months ago. So that was cool to discover that, but it was kind of funny.
Have you seen, as far as feedback, like any doubts, concerns, misconceptions of, people coming through and walking through full house, to scale plans?
We did have feedback early on. One of the interior designers was like, some of my clients, and she mentioned one in particular. I don't know if I want to give her this because she too many options to change can make it harder for her. So that was an interesting comment. But at the end of the day, it's like if you worked out some of those kinks before you come in, now you're showing, okay, this is where we're at. So that was the feedback. And then I mentioned the one that were they like the change orders. So, but like I said, they're coming in now, so it's kind of funny. Um, Other than that, obviously there's always little things we're trying to perfect. We're trying to make that experience just as the best and most premier as it can be. So we're really trying to get those processes and procedures in place. And because at the beginning of the year, we haven't decided exactly when. We have probably 2 to 3 people a week from other states wanting to do this. And so we originally we were going to start expanding quicker into other states, but we pulled back and really trying to perfect our processes and procedures and really work out all those kinks before we expand to other states and look at that opportunity. So, but we will be next year. So,
What keeps you up at night?
that's that's a loaded question, right? Just that thing of, okay, what have I done now? We've been doing well, and the Lord's blessed us very well, and now it's like now I'm starting this whole new venture, and getting more than knee deep into it, and it's like, man, and so that's a bit of stress, but it's worth it. That's the thing, like we're here to grow and learn and become the best that we can, and so I think it's important to challenge ourselves and to grind through it and work and keep ourselves active and our minds active, our bodies active, and I sure do that maybe too much sometimes, but yeah.
It's amazing. It's hard. I mean, along those lines, as you think about just, you have a family, you have responsibilities. I mean, everything going on, I always think work-life balance is unachievable. Like there's no such thing, but how do you balance the different responsibilities you have on your plate?
Yeah, that's been an interesting one because I got married late. I got married when I was 32. In the world, that's probably not too late, but in my world of a religion, that was kind of later. And so I was trying to set in my ways. I was able to go just do whatever I wanted to do and just have fun, go on vacation, all those different things, and work as late as I wanted, whatever. And then after getting married, that changes, and then having kids. So I've got three kids now. I've got two boys and a daughter, and so yeah, balancing that where I've tried to be, and for the most part, I'm pretty good at it. Where when I'm done, I'm done. I try not to answer the phone as much, and I need to get a lot better at that. But I've really, my wife and I have been. My wife's incredible. Where she, we're to all of our kids' games and most of their practices, and we keep them pretty involved. And so we're going in the afternoons, whether I like it or not. I couldn't work if I wanted to, which I don't, because there's nothing I'd rather be doing than being with my kids. And so, I have found that we're blessed as we keep that balance in our life. God's blessed my family, my wife and I, and our family incredibly. And so it's been a cool thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I appreciate the emotions there, the sensitivity. That's very heartfelt, right? To feel that emotion, Kim. I think life's complicated, right? And it's challenging. It doesn't go without challenges. And I think a lot of people may look from afar and be like, Kim and Trent, they have this genius floor plan or, genius business plan and, true size plans and, everything's, seems easy, but, behind the scenes, there's a lot of work that goes into this. And, without the support you have, I'm sure from your team and your family and everything else in between, that's the only way these dreams become reality.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. And they're that's the heart and soul of everything I do is for my family and you know and just having their love and support, and then just having that important where you give back as a father and as a husband. How critical that is in everything we're doing, because the world is yelling and screaming for our attention. There's countless things that we could be doing that could take us away from those things. That we can go to work all day and come home and have all the other distractions that just rip us out of our role as a husband and father. And so it can be a challenge.
So along those lines, what do you do for fun?
We like to go. We go to the dunes a lot. In fact, we're going for Thanksgiving. That's a kind of a tradition. We've been doing it for 4 or 5, 6 years. So we actually go and
Wow.
spend Thanksgiving at the dunes. So we do that. We'll go up. We'll go up skiing in Flagstaff, and then my wife loves going on vacation. So we do quite a few vacations when we can. So it's a fun thing. She keeps us going.
Yeah, that's incredible. What's upcoming and exciting for the business outside of the venture next door?
Like I said, the plan is beginning of the year. This next year, we'll start rolling out into some other states. We've got, like I said, we've got quite a few people that reach out to us and are looking into it, and we're pretty excited about that because what we've created is so much different and unique from even the companies that are out in the east coast of the U.S. right now and those that are in Europe and Asia. So we believe that we're creating a brand and a very premier company that'll expand, and we're able to deliver it for much cheaper as well to those partners and franchisees that we'll end up partnering with. So we feel like we'll go very very quickly because of those things that we have a lot of very unique things that are better and more efficient anyway.
And as we close, best advice you've been given?
Oh, you know, I would say that just keeping life into balance. That's a very very important thing. And then the last little tidbit is it was given this by a guy. He said that it's not necessarily the first one out or the biggest; it's the most strategic. So that's something that we're really like. I keep reminding myself that okay, we don't have to be the first out, we don't have to be the biggest, but we have to be strategic. We have to have those processes in place and this and procedures and the right people in place and just try to work out all those things that we can set ourselves up for success and all those that are around us. So
Well, Kim, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate, the invite to see the facility. For those listening, it's definitely a product that's, even if you're not in Arizona, as you mentioned, bring your clients out. You're close to the airport. It is a great, great option. Brings a ton of value to the client. So, for those listening, Kim, where can they find you?
So we're you can any of the social media platforms, True Size Plans. You can look it up. We're all over there. Then truesizeplans.com is our website, and we're located in Tempe, right off of 48th Street Baseline. So very convenient to the airports and anywhere around town. So yeah, thank you. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Kim. Thank you. If you get value from the show, please support us by giving a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you listen to. And I also have a favor to ask. We've had some incredible guests that come on and share their wisdom, their knowledge about their business. So if you have friends or family members that could benefit from those episodes, please share it with them, as well as any other business owners that you're networking with that could get value from the podcast or certain episodes. Please share those as well. Again, subscribe, make sure you're following. Any questions that you have, topics. We've had listeners reach out about certain guests that we should have on the show. Again, brad.l@aftconstruction.com. Email me for topics to address, guests that we should have on, and even if you think you'd be a great guest for the show. So again, thank you for all your support, and we'll see you next time.